Racing. Let's take a look at the starting grid. On the pole, Nigel Mansell, a record 6th rookie year pole for the points leader. Alongside is Tracy. He's won 4 races this year, all on road courses. Inside the second row is Emerson Fittipaldi, the defending champion of the Pioneer Electronics 200, and Raul Boisel, who has 3 runner-up finishes in the 93 campaign. Inside row 3 is Scott Goodyear with 7 top 10 finishes this year, and Al Unser Jr., the winner 2 weeks ago at Vancouver. Inside row 4 is Teo Fabi, a 2-time IndyCar winner here in Mid-Ohio, and Ari Luyendyk, still looking for his first career win on a road course. In row 5, it's Jimmy Vasser, equaling his best career starting position. And Mario Andretti with his 489th career start. And in the 6th row, it's Stefan Johansson and Mauricio Gugelmin, who's making his first start coming over from Formula One. The 7th row, Mark Smith and Bobby Rahal. In row 8, it's Robby Gordon and Danny Sullivan. The 9th row, Mike Groff and Scott Brayton. In row 10, Brian Till and Scott Pruitt. In row 11, Eddie Cheever, who now replaces Roberto Guerrero in Kenny Bernstein's car, and Willie T. Ribbs. In the 12th row, Hiro Matsushita and Robbie Buell. Row 13, Marco Greco and Buddy Lazier. And row 14, David Coudrave and Olivier Griard, who was an alternate here today, will replace Dominic Dobson in 28th position. Dobson reported a failure in his gearbox and will not be able to start. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, it's interesting. You may remember a year ago on the eve of this race, Roger Penske flew down to Richmond to watch Rusty Wallace in Winston Cup competition. Rusty got the win. Penske came back. Fittipaldi and Tracy ran 1-2 at this racetrack. What a weekend for Roger Penske. Well, last night, Penske was in Richmond again. Wallace got another win. Can they do it here at Mid-Ohio as they fire the engines? Let's go check in with Jan Beekes.
Well, Gary, we do have threatening skies, and the teams have put out these rain tires just in case we do get that precipitation. Within the last half hour, there has been some rain, and the teams had to make the choice. Do we start this race on a dry setup or on the wet setting? Here at Mid-Ohio, because it's a slow course, they disconnect the anti-roll bar so the car can roll in the dry anyway. That would be a normal change for the wet. Just slapping on these wet tires should do it if we do get rain. Paul?
So the IndyCar engines are fired, ready to go. What's this? Paul Newman with a softball. Don't forget, next Thursday in Reading will be Rick Mears' night, where the IndyCar drivers are going to play against the NHRA. The Diggers better look out. Yeah, I know we have some problems with nationalities, but look at Nigel Mansell. And look at that, over the fence. You tell me we're not in great shape? So that's Thursday, all to the benefit of charity in Reading. It's the Rick Mears Honor Day. Back at the Pioneer Electronics 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, as the field circulates on its first of several laps with the PPG pace cars in front. As we take a look at what lies ahead, the pit stop window, of course, very much dependent upon whether or not we run under yellow or green conditions. And as Jan has mentioned to you, there is a possibility of some rain in the area. Also, remember, we start this race over on the backside, coming out of a portion of the circuit called the keyhole. The pit straight is way too short for a start. The weather possibilities this afternoon, chance of rain, though we have no indication of exactly what that chance is. It's clear right now overhead, though it's heavily overcast, and there has been rain showers pass lightly through the area throughout the day. Onboard cameras today, Nigel Mansell, of course, as you look from his record-breaking position in the front row. We also have them scattered throughout the field. We'll have views, both this view and one over his shoulder. You can see the camera there, Danny Sullivan, who starts back in the 8th row, and that nose cam of Bobby Rahal's car. Remember, this is probably the most experienced driver on this circuit. This used to be his home test circuit. We'll also have some telemetry being transmitted to us from Raul Boisel's car, which has been fascinating in the past, and again, given the nature of this wonderfully challenging road course, should be informative again today. The circuit itself is, as I suggested, challenging, and Derek, it's one that's fairly easy to overdrive, you suggest.
I think it is. Bit of an unusual racetrack here as we watch Eddie Cheever has some last-minute troubles hopefully taken care of. But this track demands a finesse and a rhythm, I think, to be consistently fast. variety of mainly medium speed corners, but there are sudden and abrupt elevation changes. Speeds down the straight almost 190 miles an hour during qualifying, with a fairly good passing area as we watch Gugelmin, one of the new international additions here this weekend.
And we have some telemetry available here as well. And there you see the telemetry that'll be emitted there. Another Brazilian in the series, and one who has looked particularly strong in this, his first run with the IndyCars.
He actually was very good on Saturday morning here. I mean, he went from like 20th, 21st fastest, suddenly vaulted himself all the way up into the top 10. Didn't quite match that in qualifying, but he definitely opened a few eyes and pleased himself in particular.
Here, of course, as they come from Bobby Rahal's car out of that keyhole area, we're talking here is where the first movements of the start will take place over on the backside of the race course. So as we take a look at how the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course is laid out with 13 turns here, Derek, it's one that you've enjoyed.
Lots of turns. You're very busy here. What you don't see, obviously, from the map is the tremendous elevation changes. They are abrupt. They do suddenly happen. We'll see great pictures from the in-car camera here. One of the problems, though, is passing back markers, particularly if you catch them on the left side of the circuit here, up and down the mountains or the hills. Here's one of the mountains or the hills right here.
So the field now circulates still single file, and many of those areas, by the way, are blind to the drivers. You'll see a yellow flag pop out of the corner station just as you head over the brow of a hill, and you can be in a lot of trouble. Let's get an update on Eddie Cheever's situation. Jan Vikas?
Paul, Eddie Cheever has brought the Bernstein Budweiser car in the pits. They had to change the spark box. He had a misfire. They have it changed. He is back out.
So there you see Eddie Cheever again replacing Roberto Guerrero, and he will replace Roberto for the remainder of this season in that car. Eddie Cheever, whose name's been linked to a number of teams and opportunities for next season, and he has that wonderful ride out of the Bernstein stable at least to the end of the season. So now they begin to get serious. This is a pass down the pit straight into the first turn. The field all moving into position now and beginning to take up its rows of two. The pace car has already cleared the course as they head for the keyhole area, and Nigel Mansell takes control of the field now.
And Cheever will not be able to take up his position. He is too far behind. He is still half a lap behind this complete field, but what he will have is tires that are much warmer than everybody else. Oh, Cheever's back in the pit lane. We can see it from here. He is back in the pit lane, still has that misfire.
Yep, as the car comes in, you can just hear the motor rattling. So now they begin to align over on the backside of the course. The field in the control now of Nigel Mansell, the pole sitter. Paul Tracy very expectant alongside as we are ready for a race that could in fact decide the IndyCar championship. With a surge of acceleration, the green flag comes out, and we're already running at Mid-Ohio as it gets very crowded down to the first right-hander. Paul Tracy sweeps to the outside. Boisel closes in and battles with Fittipaldi. One car spins.
Groff.
Second car goes for the inside. Mike Groff already off there. And that's created some confusion in the field. And look at Nigel. Look at Nigel. What's the problem there?
Very, very slow. We saw the contact. Look at Rahal charge up inside Mansell. Mansell's in trouble. He must be on his way to the pit lane. No front wings on that car.
The one thing that Mansell could not afford to have happen here today may indeed have come to pass. Danny Sullivan also rolling to a stop on the race course. So contact, we go to a full course yellow immediately at the conclusion of the first lap here, with Nigel Mansell, the focus of the day, in trouble, and he's hit something very hard.
He has. The front suspension is damaged on that car. We saw the left side. Johansson is involved in it. He has a flat left rear tire. Perhaps 3 into 1 did not go.
Well, there were several compressions heading down. There's a right-hand bend and then a solid right-hander. The Newman Haas team already prepared for the arrival of Nigel Mansell so they can go to work on the car. He is on the pit road now. Scott Pruitt is coming out just ahead of him. By the way, Scott Pruitt in the car that was originally scheduled for John Paul Jr. Gary Gerald is there to watch Mansell's arrival.
Paul, we can see that one of the suspension arms on the left front as he comes to a stop is badly damaged. They shut off the engine. The crew immediately came out with a new nose, and they will attempt to repair the nose. But whether or not they can make the suspension change so that they can have any handling of this car is a very, very big question. There may not be clinching a championship in this pit today.
Well, the crew going to work. We were going to look and see if we could see what they were doing from the onboard camera. We cannot. It's not on the side of the car that matters. But, Derek, that looks fairly serious, though they're going to try and change it.
And they will have it changed pretty quickly. Remember, they need to get back out before the pace car comes around to stay on this lead lap. That's what they will attempt to do.
All right, let's see if we can tell what happened that's created this most extraordinary situation. Here they were coming down for the start. Nigel Mansell surged into the lead. Paul Tracy moved to the outside as Mansell moved inside of Fittipaldi and picked up third place through the first bend.
Oh, there's contact right there. There it was, right in the first corner. He actually touches with Paul Tracy. That's what broke that left front suspension. And then, of course, this was a totally separate incident.
So two simultaneous accidents. Danny Sullivan has the tow rope from the kart safety team. Jan Beekes, can you give us some more?
The Gallus team has heard from Danny Sullivan. He was not involved in an incident. The car just quit. They're hoping he can be towed back here. They have spark boxes and electronic battery and so on ready to go on Sullivan's car right now. No fire for Sullivan.
Okay, Jan Beekes, now we need some of your expertise from the drivers' meeting. Nigel Mansell roared out of the pits just as the pace car was coming past. He has now passed the pace car and looks like he's going to try to make up that full lap and join the field staying on the same lap. Perhaps you can tell us in a moment, Jan Beekes, exactly what the rule's going to be there, but Gary Gerald has this.
Well, we just wanted to make sure that you were aware of the fact that he did get out. They got the nose changed. They tried to handle a bent steering arm in the left front suspension. We'll see how the car handles, but I think that question of position is going to be a significant one because it appeared from our vantage point when he rocketed from the pits that the pace cars had already gone by.
Gary, that steering arm that you mentioned, the good teams have those preset. They don't have to adjust the steering. They literally undo the two bolts, drop the new steering arm in, and they know the steering is set up as the original one was. So Mansell can have confidence in this car.
All right, Jan Beekes, what is the rule on the blend? Can Mansell do what he's doing now?
Paul, we can't see a monitor, so we don't know if he beat the pace car or not. If you have a replay, look for that blend line. It's a yellow line. He has to beat the pace car to that blend line. If not, he's going to have to go back that whole lap.
Well, we could just see the end of it as Mansell made a dash scramble to try and get out ahead of that pace car. Here it is. Look, he's even in the dirt, but he is behind the blend line. So because of this, he will have to get behind that pace car. In fact, IndyCar have radioed to his team to tell Mansell to get behind the pace car. He will now be one lap down or more if he has a long stop-and-go penalty.
Danny Sullivan's glove. Yes, he tries to get rolling again. He, I think, tried to probably restart it on the course and couldn't do so. Maybe we can go back and take a look at the onboard camera from the perspective of Nigel Mansell on that start, and we'll see exactly what may have happened there a little more clearly. They come off the keyhole. They are aligned. They're looking for the green. Let's listen to the motor. There's the green.
You can hear the wheel spin as Mansell jumped away, but watch Tracy. There's the key move there. There's the hit. That was it.
And that Mansell immediately starts slowing. That gets all the rest of the field compressed up behind him. But with that slow, there's Scott Goodyear looking for room. Mansell wisely gets out of the way. And they're back in the pits working on that car. Gary? So they continue to work on Nigel Mansell's car, trying to get him back in the fight because he needs every point that he could garner today at Mid-Ohio.
Back at Mid-Ohio, yellow flag still being displayed around the circuit. Nigel Mansell back in the pits. The first time in, they got the new nose on. They couldn't change the steering arm. They're in the process of changing the steering arm right now. Engine shut down. We can see the field coming up the hill on the front straightaway. They will put another lap on Mansell now as he sets here in the pits. So a disastrous start for the man who is dominating the championship point standings, who had hoped to clinch a championship today. They still hope to get him back out there, but he's now going to be significantly down to the field, Paul.
And of course, a number of incidents that led up to this first lap situation, Derek.
Watch this. Mansell's left front suspension is broken. Look at Leyendijk. clips the front wings off of Mansell's car. He was already on his way to the pit lane anyway. That just lengthened that pit stop.
And the crew going to work on that car still in the pits.
He's a bit helpless here because he really can't get out of people's way. And Lyndike being pursued there by Mario, you can see that clearly, just nips the front wing. There you go, there's the debris.
So a disaster here in the first lap for Nigel Mansell and his bid for a championship, but the Newman Haas team is continuing to work on that car to get it back into competition and hopefully get a point or two before the day is over. Jan Beekes?
Paul, we've had 2 cars with suspension problems coming in. First of all, Danny Sullivan, not from hitting anything, but when they tried to tow him in, the line got wrapped around the front suspension, caused some damage. He just rolled out. You could hear him go by. Stefan Johansson has also come in, but his damage was from Robby Gordon hitting him from behind. They've replaced a tire and a lower control arm. He's also back up to speed.
Well, and Nigel Mansell has more bad news to face, assuming, as we do, that they will get that car properly repaired, out of the pits, back into the field before we leave this yellow. As soon as they go green, they'll display a black flag to Nigel Mansell for the blend line violation. So it's actually, at this point, not going to matter all that much.
Well, at the top of the show, we said he was going to have his hands full with these Penske's trying to beat them. We didn't quite envisage that type of contact and that type of problems for Mansell, but that's the way it has unfolded so far.
So the rest of the field lines up with Paul Tracy as the leader of the race, followed by Fittipaldi, Bosell, Al Unser Jr., Scott Goodyear, Teo Fabi, then Mario Andretti in 7th, Jimmy Vasser in 8th. In 9th is Mark Smith, and Gugelmin has moved into 10th. The green flag comes out, and here we go again, this time single file, this time starting over on the pit straight. As they come back up to speed, Nigel Mansell is back on the course, but of course he will see the black flag very quickly come back in for that stop and go.
There's our 2 main championship contenders against Mansell, leading here 1-2 in race conditions. This car has been very good, but look at Bosell with the challenge on Emerson.
Raul Bosell moves to the inside, very close together, almost touch tires. Emerson holds him off. Al Unser Jr. closes in on Bosell.
Emerson was forced to take the inside line there and make things very difficult for Bosell. Luckily, Bosell realized and read it quick enough and decided to back out of it in this early stages of the race.
Paul Tracy runs alone. You saw the interval back to 2nd place, Fittipaldi, and then the lineup behind him, Bosell, Al Unser Jr., now joined by Scott Goodyear, Teo Fabi, and Mario Andretti. They are all right together.
Al Jr., one of his best qualifying positions, qualified 6th, had that grin again after qualifying, that confident look when he knows a racing car feels good under him. He feels very confident as this race unfolds. He will be a major challenger.
Nigel Mansell just took the green flag ahead of the leaders over on the pit straight. At that moment, I didn't see a black flag out at the line, but the indication is he will see one fairly quickly.
Here's the drag race again that we watched earlier. Bosell versus Emerson. He's a little bit further behind this time, so I'm not sure that he can make a legitimate passing attempt. Look at Goodyear.
Al Unser Jr. and Scott Goodyear battle for 4th while Bosell tries to sweep to the inside of Fittipaldi, and there goes little Al past Goodyear. He has 4th.
There's lots of room down there at the end of that straight. If you can't get it done inside, maybe you can try and go side by side around the outside. If you can get up the hill on the inside, you are in good shape.
Have to be careful, though, because it is an off-camber corner. That can throw the car right off the course, as throughout the preliminary events, we've seen a number of incidents at that very location. Paul Tracy still in front. This battle around Goodyear broken off for the moment. Though Teo Fabi closing in. Now Teo Fabi, as he chases Goodyear, we watch Nigel Mansell answering the black flag, coming in for his stop-and-go penalty.
And this just continues to go downhill for Mansell. All the mechanical problems, all caused by 2 cars wanting that small piece of ground in turn 1, and all this trouble happens. But now he's going to be in a real fight.
And Mansell rejoins in the middle of the field, 2 laps behind in 25th position. Gary Gerald.
Well, a very frustrated Nigel Mansell, obviously, on the radio, very concerned about we need the points. He wanted to know what's the point of having to make this stop and go now. Tom Wirtz, his lead mechanic, said the repair work all looks good. But, of course, it took plenty of time. That's the major concern.
Raul Boisel with a fascinating challenge to the outside of Fittipaldi. He loses ground in doing so, and Alonso Jr. closes in.
And just what we said, if you can't get it done the inside, try the outside. Boisel was alongside Emerson, but he didn't quite keep the momentum around that longer outside groove, and Emerson grabbed it back again.
The telemetry coming from Ford Electronics on Raul Boisel's car as he maneuvers in this tight little battle, currently in third, trying to close Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy beginning to pull away, now 4 seconds ahead of Fittipaldi.
You can see the speed on the right side build up here. Now, turn 1 is a 5th gear corner, no lower than 113 miles an hour. And then the acceleration blast. Watch the speed, 170 miles an hour before he gets on the brakes. But here's the blast on the drag straight. The drag strip down this long back straight.
The key here is acceleration on this downhill run at this point, and then all over the brakes and down through the gears at the end of it.
Look at this. 191 miles an hour around the outside, and Emerson still holds that defensive line down the inside. But I tell you, Emerson has his hands full. Look at Al Jr.
This time Boisel tries a slightly different line over to the right, about 2 car widths over. Al Jr. closes in with that again as well. Boisel continues his pursuit of Emerson Fittipaldi, while Fittipaldi's teammate Paul Tracy, both players in the championship fight, begin to pull away.
Exactly what the leader needs, because he has a dogfight going on behind him. They will slow each other up in second, third, and fourth here as Tracy inches away.
So 9 laps complete for the leader, Paul Tracy, as he flashes across the line. We're underway at Mid-Ohio, and it looks like it's going to be an interesting outcome. At the Pioneer Electronics 200, the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, Paul Tracy seems to be running about a second a lap faster than everyone else. Here is the interval leaderboard. 0-0 would be Paul Tracy, and then on the right side, the interval back from the leader of the race. Paul Tracy is right now running the fastest laps of this race and pulling away from everybody. Raul Boisel, the third place car, broken off from his battle with Fittipaldi of just a few moments ago, but threatened by Al Unser Jr., Scott Goodyear, Teo Fabi, and soon Mario Andretti lined up just behind him.
Sometimes you get an opportunity to pounce. If you can take it and make the pass stick, you're looking good. But Boisel has now allowed Emerson to just creep away. He may not get the same opportunity, or he certainly won't get it in these immediate laps. But sometimes you have to be more decisive when you try to make that pass.
This is a course where getting the power down on the course, getting the grip, the traction is so critical. As Al Unser Jr. closes in on Boisel, winds to the outside on the keyhole. This should be a good run. Here's Nigel Mansell working his way through traffic.
That's Robby Gordon right ahead of him, number 14, AJ Foyt's car. Now here's the blast down the front straight. Both Ford engine cars, but can Mansell get up inside Gordon under braking? Have a look here. No, no, no.
Al Unser Jr. stayed back behind Boisel as they came down through this part of the course. But Mansell driving for all he's worth now. This should be a brilliant run as he tries to find any position he can. He needs to get up at least a 12th position, hopefully higher, and pick up some PPG points.
He needs help with attrition, because the chances of him, no matter how good he is, of making all that ground up on the racetrack is virtually zero. So he needs a lot of help here with attrition and problems for other people.
Coming back up to the front of the field now, that battle between Al Unser Jr. and Raul Boisel. While broken off behind Boisel, look at Scott Goodyear. This, of course, is a time in the season. You heard Scott Goodyear at the beginning of our coverage here talk about what he may or may not do next year. This is a time when there's a lot of showing off, isn't there, Derek, where guys really want to perform well so they can convince owners and sponsors of where they should be next year.
I mean, that's all part of the silly season. In Scott Goodyear's instance, we know that the McKenzie backing will not be there for next year. That could create a problem for Derek Walker. He needs to secure the type of financing to keep a Scott Goodyear caliber driver in that team. Otherwise, Scott may be forced to actually make a move somewhere else.
Al Unser Alonso Jr. continues to work on third place. Raul Boisel. The Dick Simon team. Simon's talked about next year maybe only a 2-car team. Do we know who the 2 will be? We know one is Boisel.
Well, at one stage, we almost had a Dick Simon championship here. He ran 5 cars, he ran 6 cars. I mean, he could have his own racing championship. But I mean, I don't know. It's difficult to say. He does a very good job running multiple teams and cars. But I always believe if you have 2 good cars and good drivers, ultimately, if you concentrate on them, you may actually end up being more successful.
So the battle continues to revolve around Raul Boisel, and Jan Bikas can give us a little more on his position.
Speaking of Dick Simon, Paul, we checked in with the crew. He has not radioed in with any problems, but of course he has dropped back from contact with Emerson Fittipaldi. It appears now as though he may be holding up Alonso Jr. and those behind him. They feel it might just be a strategy to take a breather after trying to pass Emerson. Taking a breather, they look for him to close in a few laps.
Well, he's sitting back about a 1.5 seconds behind Fittipaldi. It does seem that Alonso Jr. works better in some sections of the course than Boisel. Boisel makes it up in other sections. Of course, you're talking on Raul's car, a machine that they're doing a lot of really good aerodynamic work with, aerodynamic work that is being copied by many of the other Lolas. We go back to the front of the field now. Paul Tracy runs in first place, and he is 10.7 seconds ahead of his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi. The fight is definitely on here, but it seems no longer for the championship. At the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, we watch Nigel Mansell continue to work his way up through the field, but the numbers are quite simple. He's 2 laps behind everyone else in this race, and as a result of that, he has a long, long day ahead. Looking back at the bottom of that field, though, we should also remember that not only Mansell fell 2 laps behind, so did Stefan Johansson, and Mike Groff, with his contact on that first turn incident, the second incident, a separate one from that of Mansell, has fallen a lap behind the race. So Danny Sullivan is back in the pits. Sullivan, of course, has been struggling throughout the day, and he is now 8 laps behind the leader. We took a look at the running order at the conclusion of 14 laps and look down the pit straight as Mansell continues to try to work his way through the field, and Paul Tracy continues to run away.
And it is difficult to pass here, particularly when the cars are fairly even. Now Mansell draws up again under the rear wing of Gordon, but he's not close enough. You can see it there in the braking zone. He's not close enough. Who was that on the left-hand side running wide? Gugelmin, maybe.
Mansell still pursuing Gordon. He can pass the slower cars, but the further he comes up through the field, the closer he comes to his own speed. And remember, still not certain. You assume that they did a good job on that car in terms of getting the nose back with the right angles. They had the preset rods there, but maybe it's not exactly right.
So obviously it wasn't Gugelmin that we saw on the left-hand side run wide through the keyhole. It possibly was Buddy Lazier. That's the other brightly colored car, red and white. But Gugelmin and Robby Gordon here are embroiled in a tremendous battle. And I mean, they don't need to move over and let Mansell by, because this is all racing for position.
Absolutely, it's a battle for 10th place. As Robby Gordon closes in, makes his challenge, Mansell watches now, perhaps a little more carefully.
Look at Gugelmin now. Lost a little bit there. Oh, look at this. Very difficult to move down the inside there. There just isn't enough time to make the pass. But Mansell is ready to pounce here if Robby Gordon slips up at all in his attempt to pass Gugelmin.
As long and big as this course is, 2.25 miles, look at Mansell fight that wheel as the back end comes loose.
Look how wide he goes. There's a concrete patch through the keyhole there. Mansell went right across the concrete patch down the outside. Now he's got to run on Gordon. Is he going to get close enough? Here he comes.
Gordon's not having any part of that.
No, I tell you, slice his nose off. I don't care if you're a world champion. Watch me. I mean, Gordon's the type to do that. He is. We mentioned about the young gun being Tracy. You have to include a Robby Gordon in that category also. I believe he has told AJ Foyt that he will not drive for him next year, and it's becoming more open now.
Brian Till suddenly slowing on the race course and definitely off the pace now. He was not in contention at the top of the order, but was running 15th.
Great shame. He was, believe it or not, running 5th fastest on Friday, and then had electrical problems in qualifying, blew the engine in the second qualifying, but he was running very, very fast on Friday.
Danny Sullivan out of the car and with Jan Bikas.
Danny, things went from bad to worse. What happened there at the start?
Well, somebody tapped Johansson. He spun. We all got jammed in behind. I was trying to get around. Everybody stalled the car. Then I got a tow, and when they towed, I let go of the rope, and it wrapped in the front suspension. They stopped, and it just jerked the car, spun me off the track, and bent the front suspension, a toe link, and broke all that. Then we got that fixed after a couple stops, went out, and we had a oil pressure problem, and that's it. I mean, it was like a comedy of errors, you know, one thing after another.
Boy, sometimes when it goes, huh?
That's right.
Danny, let's go back to Paul.
You know, Danny Sullivan with a day slightly worse than Nigel Mansell. Only his second DNF this year, or the second DNF here at Mid-Ohio. Danny Sullivan has been in 10 different events here on the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course.
Look how long a lead Paul Tracy has over his own teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. The full length of this straight here, which is longer than it even looked with our lens of our camera here. But what a fight we still have going back here. 3, 4, 5, and 6, with Teo Fabi pulling up the rear, having one of his best races of the year.
Well, let's do the arithmetic on this. You've got 19 laps complete in the race. The first laps were under yellow, and Paul Tracy's about 14 seconds ahead of the field. So, in fact, he is pulling away at about a second a lap over his teammate, Emerson Fittipaldi. Paul Tracy just blistered a lap off at 114.6 miles an hour. That by almost a full mile an hour faster than anybody else on the course. We're continuing to monitor this battle that goes on between Nigel Mansell and Robby Gordon. This was just a few laps ago. Look at how hard they are both fighting.
This is a tremendous fight here. Now Mansell still tries to go around the outside. Right here, look. He gives up right there. Here he is again. He gets down the inside. And finally, after 5 laps, scrambles past Robby Gordon. Tracy's off.
Paul Tracy is off the course. Remember the zest of youth and how it has cost him this year? It's done so again. Arie Luyendyk was closing up behind Gordon just as Mansell got around as they began to battle, and then suddenly through the sand trap and into the tire barrier, Paul Tracy.
And it was again in laps traffic that Scott Pruitt ahead of him. Look at this, he gets very close, locks it up over the curb. It's a right-hander here, and that's it, it's all lost. You may be burying his championship hopes in that sand trap and under those tires as we watch it right there.
And is that shades of Bobby Rahal last year, where he ran off the corner and almost ended his possibility of a championship? Roger Penske has been on the radio to Paul. Not anymore. Paul unplugged it and got out pretty quick.
Well, here it is again. That's a mistake. That's a driver error. You can't call that anything else. You have to be able to adapt to slower cars being in your way, particularly when you're passing them or lapping them. That's something he must do. He just threw away another race win.
Well, that creates a battle back at the front of the field, as Fittipaldi is now sitting about 7 seconds ahead of this battle, and this is now a battle for second place between Bosell and Al Unser Jr.
And it has also opened up the championship, because Emerson now could possibly be in a position, well, he is right now, to get winner's points, and Mansell has yet to get in a position to score any points.
Well, given the current positioning, we could leave this race with Mansell still at the front of the order, but he would lose 20 precious points to Fittipaldi. That's assuming it stays the way it is, and we're not going to begin to make that assumption.
And we dropped Teo Fabi from this group right here. Fabi, who was having a great run, hung on to the back of these guys, and he has been dropped. He is no longer behind Scott Goodyear.
If you're tracking Eddie Cheever, he is finally back in the race after a 21-minute repair. They finally got him back out and into action. We watch the battle for second. It continues on. Now here we have Robby Gordon battling with Arie Luyendyk as they start to chop at one another as they move through traffic and continue their battle now for 9th place. They all moved up when Paul Tracy came off.
Here's Mansell now. Mark Smith is the next attack point here. He comes down the inside. And we do hear it's begin to rain.
You can see some drops of rain on these camera lenses now.
Whoa,
you think this was interesting before? What's going to happen now?
That will open up some difficulties here. Oh, look at this. Gugelmin, Robby Gordon, and Luyendyk all embroiled in a battle here for position. Gordon has not been able to pass Gugelmin.
Three-way fight for 8th, and they close on Mark Smith in 7th. Yellow flags out there for Paul Tracy as the IndyCar safety team comes to get him off, and it looked like Fittipaldi off the side. Let's go to Gary Gerald, who's with Stefan.
After a third-place finish at Vancouver in the last race, Stefan Johansson, this has been a very difficult day. The contact early, and now you're out of the car. I understand there was a problem with the gearbox or the shift linkage.
Yeah, I think it was a legacy of got hit by Gordon in the start on the first corner. He spun me around, and he probably hit the gear link, the shifter mechanism, and that eventually broke.
Been really tough, I know, this year, and the team was on a roll after getting that podium finish. It's got to be so disappointing now.
And the car was running so well today. I think I was the quickest car on the track, you know, when we stopped. And, you know, if we'd been running properly, I think we would have been in good shape now.
Sorry you're not still out there. Thank you, Stefan.
Okay.
Paul?
So with rain in some sections of the course, boy, take a look at this as Gugelmin sweeps inside. Gordon continues his fight, but Gugelmin gets around Mark Smith. What a nice run he's giving that car.
This is the car that's had many drivers looking
And here comes Robby as Mark Smith tries to hold him off. Arie Luyendyk closes in. The battle here is 4-7.
I was going to say Gugelmin's car is the one Eddie Cheever drove in the last race. This is also the car that Lynn St. James drove to good effect, particularly at the Michigan 500 earlier this year.
So is potentially Gugelmin the next Stick Simon driver for all next year? Team, there's Fittipaldi back under tow. Maybe they'll get him back rolling again.
Having one of his best races. Look at Robby Gordon. Has that baby sideways under acceleration out onto this front pit straight.
Robby Gordon and Paul Tracy may be two of the most exciting drivers to watch in this series. And Gordon thinks absolutely nothing of pitching the car totally sideways and going through the corner. Scott Goodyear comes around Al Unser Jr. and picks up 3rd place as a full course yellow comes out for the second time today.
He just got the pass handled in time, I believe.
Yep, just ahead of the yellow. Just ahead of the yellow.
And he did it the hard way. He went round the outside of Al Unser Jr.
You've got a combination of factors here. You've got some rain on some sections of the course. You have the fact that there are several cars under toll. You saw Fittipaldi just a moment ago. They want to get this course cleaned up and get everybody back in line. So the yellow flags fly, 2 of them at the start-finish line. And here comes Emerson Fittipaldi into the pits. Jan Bikas waits for him.
Fittipaldi stops it right on the marks. He has radioed in. We said at the beginning of the show, he likes a little more front wing to make the car loose. Watch for them after they change the tires. They're going to take some of that wing out. The car's too loose. There he goes. 1/2. Okay, 1 turn on each front wing. The car's down. Emerson Fittipaldi underway.
13.8 seconds and Fittipaldi's back into the fight. You see both Mansell and Nigel Andretti coming in. There goes Al Unser Jr. in and out in 12.2 seconds. And the real key here, though, is no one seems to have decided that there's enough moisture on the circuit to go to rain tires.
And I believe Al Jr. in that session of pit stops may have got that position back from Scott Goodyear.
Arie Luyendyk, he comes back into the fight. Got a glimpse there of the speed gun. It is not the official reading. It's a reference reading that tells these drivers how close they are to the 80-mile-an-hour limit. And there is continued moisture over on this side of the course. Not a lot. Who knows how much is on that track? Only the guys in the cockpit. And Emerson wants everybody out of the way so he can close up.
Well, if it rains here, we could have a very interesting event because you begin to slip and slide. You have to be so careful. It has threatened to rain all day. It's been gray and overcast. We haven't seen raindrops until the last 2 laps.
At 30 car, of course, is Marco Greco just ahead of Emerson. Willie T. Ribbs with a quick spin. Keeps it under control, keeps the engine going. And we'll get it back on the on the race course. Marco Greco, of course, has been in an uphill battle hoping for good equipment all year. Now has some great possibilities for new and uprated equipment. And I'll tell you, I think he's one of the other drivers that you get him in a car that can really go racing, and he can have one terrific year. Raul Boisel, he comes into the pits, as does much of the field who was not there the first time. And he comes back into the fight. So under the full course caution now, the rest of the field tries to line up as everyone decides lap 27 is a very good point to make your first pit stop of the day, but that may change the complexion of this race as it runs to the end at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. At the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, we continue to be under the second full course yellow of the day, though we expect to go back to green flag racing very quickly. And when we do so, we expect a great deal. Nigel Mansell trying to move up through the field, gain a lap back, get back in contention, get a point. At the same time, Al Unser Jr. is coming up through this field. We're looking for him to do something. And let's go to Gary Gerould.
Well, they had new suspension parts on Theo Fabi's car this weekend. Jim Hall and the team very optimistic coming in. Electronic problems, we understand. And while we watch the crew, if we've got just a quick moment, Jim Hall is here. Jim, how frustrating. It is electronic gremlins?
Well, apparently the engine just shut off. So it appears to be electric, and we have changed all the parts up to this point. We haven't found it, so it may be in a wiring loom somewhere. We're not sure. Yeah, it is a little frustrating because he was running well this weekend.
Indeed he was. We're about ready to go green. Thank you, Jim. Better fortune in Nazareth.
And in fact, we do go green as Marco Greco very wisely sweeps to the outside. Let's first, second, and third around as Scott Goodyear challenges on Al Unser Jr. And Scott Goodyear moves into second place. That's a surprise. You would have expected that little Al would have been all over the back of Emerson Fittipaldi. Now it is Scott Goodyear challenging Fittipaldi for the lead. He goes very wide in a difficult place to do so. Gets off course, gets back on, and continues his pursuit. But here's Al Unser Jr. closing in. They're on the downhill run now. Heavy braking at the bottom of this one, down through the gears. Al Unser Jr. darts to the right, comes back to the left. Goodyear comes to the outside, but he still can't get around Fittipaldi. But Al Unser Jr. carried enough momentum in that he closes from second place onto the back of Fittipaldi. What a tremendous battle.
Tried to bite off just a little bit too much. A tremendous move around the outside of Al Jr. into turn one, but he tried to bite too much and lost it, trying to get by Emerson, and loses the position back to Al Jr.
Well, that surge coming back for the green flag seems over for the moment, but boy, what a battle it was with Scott Goodyear coming forward, but then Al Unser Jr. taking it right back away, and they end up in the order that they started. Mike Groff off the race course into a gravel pit. Tough to get the car out of there unless he gets some help from more than just a couple of the corner workers here. Most of them from Lake Erie Communications. Again, literally hundreds of volunteers working the corner stations as marshals to try and keep these races under control and keep them going. The race is very thankful for that. Al Unser Jr. in the keyhole again.
And we saw the car off on the left-hand side there, but Al Jr. through the keyhole has an interesting line. It's different to everybody else, and it gives him a good slingshot. He's going to try and go around the outside of Emerson.
Al Unser Jr. makes the move to the outside. Fittipaldi protects the position, sweeps a little out before he comes in. But look at little Al as he comes to the inside. Very difficult off-cambered corner. And Fittipaldi comes out to the edge of the course and keeps little Al back.
Give me half a groove and I'll try and make it wide enough. Al Jr. was so confident after qualifying that this was a good racing car. He needs, though, to get the job done early in this run because the Penske, as the laps go on and the fuel load lightens, just seems to edge away from the Lolas.
You can see the battle first through fourth as pulled away from the rest of the field. Fittipaldi, Unser Jr., Scott Goodyear, and Raul Boisel. Jimmy Vasser is running in fifth place right now, though the indication is that they will black flag that car for a pit violation.
Now watch Al Jr.'s line here as he goes through the keyhole. Emerson stays tight. There's a concrete patch on the inside. Emerson goes inside it, and Al Jr. goes to the outside of it. Didn't go as wide there as he normally does, but he likes to stick his outside wheels outside the concrete patch. Here he goes again, another run.
Al Unser Jr. to the outside now. Goodyear and Boisel wait station. Little Al tucks in behind. Looks like he's going to the right.
He's trying to get around the outside. Oh, look at this.
He touches with Fittipaldi, hangs on to it, gets back on the course, comes back in third, but clips his wing. He clips with Scott Goodyear. Comes in behind Boisel and keeps going. Incredible.
Bit off more than he could chew there. We saw exactly what he wanted to do. If he held station around the outside of Emerson, he was on the inside of the bottom of the hill. That's where he could have made the move. Emerson moved all the way over. There was contact, and that was it. Al Jr. will have to go to the pit lane.
Emerson gave him the room necessary. Little Al couldn't hold on to the car right there, though I have to admit it was a pretty skinny car width that was available to little Al on the course. As Al Unser Jr. heads into the pits now to get repair on the nose wing of that car.
He's a fighter. He is a fighter all the time.
Gary Gerould's right there.
Indeed, the left front nose wing gone. They'll replace the entire nose. The crew immediately immediately got the spare out over the wall. They keep the engine running, which is a little bit surprising. He had a magnificent 12.2-second pit stop that enabled him to get up into that second position, challenging Fittipaldi. Now they strap the new nose on. They'll bolt it down, and boy, I tell you, this crew is really doing a terrific job of hustling. Let's check in with Jan because his Unser continues to get service.
The other car involved in that was Scott Goodyear. We checked with Derek Walker. He says, I just saw it on the monitor. I have heard from Scott. The car is fine. He did not have the kind of damage that Al Jr. did.
And right behind Scott Goodyear is now Bosell closing in a battle for second place. As here's that situation again.
Wheels are interlocked, and Al Jr. knew that he was out of road. He took across the curb, down the grass. But watch it here, right here. Now he's out of control. Slices the front wings off Scott Goodyear's right rear. Scott Goodyear was lucky that he did not slice that right rear tire and also have to make a pit stop.
Does that put you in mind of the '89 Indy 500, Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr.? That contact was good for $1 million to Fittipaldi in his first Indy 500 win. By the way, Jimmy Vasser did answer a black flag for a pit speed violation. In doing so, he dropped out of 5th and fell back through the field to 11th. That brought Mario Andretti up into 5th place, followed by Lyondike, Ray Hall, Gugelmin, and Brayton and Ribbs rounding off the top 10. The action is continuing here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. We have a spectacular afternoon underway. There's been so much action here in the very early going. In fact, on the first lap, Nigel Mansell, who could have clinched the PPG Cup and the IndyCar Championship here, involved in contact, damaged his car severely at the front. The crews made repairs to the suspension and the nose, got him back in the fight. The lead of the race went over to Paul Tracy, but then Paul Tracy got in trouble and went head-on into the barrier. He's out of the race. That gave the lead of the race over to Emerson Fittipaldi, who currently leads this race by about 2.5 seconds. Scott Goodyear is second. Raul Boesel is third. Al Unser Jr. was up there in the middle of that fight, but at the moment, he's in trouble because he clipped a wing off of his car. Now, Derek, let's go to Bobby Rahall's onboard camera.
This is the keyhole. Second gear, third gear, sometimes in a 6-speed gearbox. Miles an hour down here, heavy braking. Watch the elevation changes here, up the top of the hill and back down, over the top, look. Now over the top of the hill again. Oh, and you hear the wheel spin? Car got light, another hill. Just close that gap to Lyondike and Andretti. Turn 1 is 5th gear. You're playing with the throttle. And pick 6th. Back to the keyhole.
With Bobby Rahal, who runs in 7th place. This fight remains the same. Arie Luyendyk just setting a car length off the back of Mario Andretti in their fight for 5th place. But Arie Luyendyk, for the moment at least, has let it go. You can look out the front of Bobby Rahal's car during that lap and keep track of this battle as well. The Chevrolets have been so powerful on road courses. They wind up to power much quicker, it seems, than the Fords, and so they've had a solid year. But right now, with the absence of Al Unser Jr. at the front and Paul Tracy at the front, you have Chevrolet leading.
Buddy Lazier
off the edge of the race course. So you have the Chevrolet of Fittipaldi at the front, but then 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. All Ford power engines. There's Fittipaldi at the front of the field.
Emerson now draws that little bit of a breathing space he needed from the pursuing Lolas. As the laps go on here and the fuel load lightens, the Penske seem to settle down into this nice, easy routine.
Interesting battle well back in the field. It's a fight for 15th. This is Marco Greco and Scott Pruitt. Now that 45 car originally this weekend was assigned to John Paul Jr. It's a 91 car. He showed up and he took a few laps in the car, and then he made what had to be the toughest decision ever for an IndyCar driver, and I think a class decision, and said, I'm physically too large to do this car justice. And so they went looking for Scott Pruitt. They put him in the car. Now he battles with Marco Greco, who's giving that 30 car a good run.
Obviously missed a full session while John Paul had that car, but still managed to qualify 20th. And remember, this is a 91 car, a little bit outdated to race against some of the machinery at the front of the field. But Scott Pruitt enjoying himself, but he would rather be up the front.
Al Unser Jr. is only about 12 seconds from the danger of going a lap down. You got a glimpse of him there. We continue to watch this revolving battle for 15th. Though for the moment, Scott Pruitt does not seem to be able to get up and challenge Marco Greco, who's holding him off. Well, just the opposite of that, really. There you go. Here comes now Lyondike moving on. Andretti tries it again, locks the brakes heavily, and can't get past. Brakes locked at the rear?
No, it was front brakes, but that's what we said earlier. If you don't get alongside Mario, he will chop down. That is his normal style. Lyondike knows that. He tried to poke down the inside, but realized he couldn't get it done. Locked up those fronts and actually lost about 2 or 3 car lengths. He probably is a little bit faster, but catching is one thing. Actually getting by is always something different.
Ray Hall continues in pursuit. Also Brian Till giving that 99 car a good run after his early problems. He is sitting back behind Ray Hall and continuing to pace with Ray Hall, Lyondike, and Mario Andretti, though he is 6 laps behind and running in 20th. Jan Vikas, Ari Lyondike, you have something?
Checking in with the Chip Ganassi crew, they said the car is fine. They did not make any changes during that previous pit stop. They said we've always been faster than Mario. We've just now finally caught him. But the difficulty is most drivers feel there's only one good place to pass, and that's at the end of the straightaway. They think they have more speed, looking for Lyondike now to pull off the move.
Well, the last time Ari tried it there, it did not work at all. We are now 47 laps deep into an 89-lap race, 199.3 miles here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course. At the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, the Pioneer Electronics 200, it is still Emerson Fittipaldi out in front. As they came through traffic a few seconds ago, Goodyear was very close, but now they've separated again. Marco Greco was in front of both of them, very wisely got out of the way and let the leaders come through.
And Marco Greco having probably his best race of the year. Look at Mansell slices down the inside, takes 2 cars in one. I'm sure they saw him coming, but Greco and the Team Losi car run by Dennis McCormick, I'm sure delighted with their performance so far.
But all of this passing, none of it for position. Mansell still remains well back in the field and 2 laps behind the lead of the race. The fight is here at the front. Fittipaldi, who came to this track pretty well out to lunch on the setup, finally asked Paul Tracy's team, what are you doing with the car? He took Tracy's setup and then immediately put some speed into the car. Tracy, of course, led in the early going here, but now it is Fittipaldi, after Tracy spin off the course and ending his day, that leads, but he's being strongly challenged by Goodyear. And Emerson Fittipaldi now locks up the bonus point for leading the most laps in this race in that badly needed point. He needs anything he can get. If they would score the race as we are right now, then Mansell will still lead with a points lead, but 169 points to 156. And so Mansell, because of that mistake early in the race, will fall 21 points behind from where he was when he came into this day. There's Fittipaldi as we look at the Valvoline race recap after 55 laps. Tracy and Fittipaldi, the leaders. So the Penske team very powerful on this course. Cars out of the race. Pretty critical key names there. So back watching the leader, the 4-car of Brazil's Emerson Fittipaldi.
When Emerson gets clear road, this car is clearly faster. The last lap he did was 115.6 miles an hour, over almost a mile an hour quicker than Scott Goodyear. So in clear air, in clear racetrack, Emerson does have the measure of Goodyear at the moment.
57 laps complete. 31 laps since Emerson Fittipaldi made his last pit stop, so we will keep an eye on the Penske team to see what they will be doing. Scott Goodyear's team has decided it's time already to come in. Jan is there.
Goodyear comes in, and they will have to take on every bit of fuel on this car because he's going to have to go 31 laps. The tires are changed. They're waiting. They have to take all this fuel. That's a long way to go. He's down. Everything's done. They didn't make any changes. Scott Goodyear underway. Let's go to Gary.
Robby Gordon has just come in on this sequence. We just got a call that Emerson Fittipaldi will come in also on the next time by. They serviced Gordon. He was running in 4th place on what should be the final stop, but it's going to be very, very close in terms of is there enough fuel to go the remaining distance. Real close, Paul.
Mario Andretti also came into the pits, as did Raul Boisel. You saw that Mansell was lined up behind Scott Goodyear on the racetrack, continuing to run at speed. There is Gordon coming back out, and he picked up a position coming out of there as the pit stop more efficient and got around Boisel. Emerson Fittipaldi leading the race, but Rick Reineman of the crew is waiting. He's the chief. He'll keep track of the right front of that car, as here is Fittipaldi on the pit road, Gary Gerald.
We watch with the crew. The nose is in sight. He slides in a little hot, has to hit the brakes hard. There was concern about temperatures, but it looks like it is stabilized. He's able to get in one more lap than some of the others. That could be critical if they get the full 40-gallon complement of fuel in. Fittipaldi hoping to win here for the 3rd time. He's down. He's rolling 15.7 seconds for Emo.
Mark Smith also in, Griard in, Bobby Rahal now into the pits, Brian Till into the pits as well. So this the theoretical last stop of the race for everyone, unless of course it's a mechanical difficulty. This should take care of fuel and tires.
And look at the gap he now has on Scott Goodyear. Goodyear stopped first, but obviously the in and out lap and his time on pit road was considerably longer than Emerson Fittipaldi's.
And during those stops too, Mansell got around Goodyear. So now if he can get around Fittipaldi, he gets himself 1 lap behind the lead of the race. Terribly frustrating day for Mansell.
He needs lots of help. If he can get by Emerson, he needs a yellow flag immediately, have the pace car pick up Emerson, and then make up that full lap, because there's not enough laps there for him to make it up.
Considering the way the day's gone, though, that's not outside the realm of possibility. 2 full course cautions early in the race. Goodyear's stop was 17 seconds. Emerson Fittipaldi in at 15.7. The in and the out, part of the tail.
Yeah, right, but the in and the out lap is also the key. When you put on cold tires, how fast can you get around on that first lap? That is a key.
2nd place, Ari Leyendijk comes in. Jan Bigas?
Leyendijk comes in, but he has an advantage because he's in a lap later. He won't have to take on all the fuel. They're going to time the fuel so they don't have to take every last drop. They're going to wait till they get just enough, and he'll be underway. All the tires are on. They're waiting for that call from Chip Ganassi, the team owner. Ari is looking up at him saying, okay, I'm out of here.
So Ari Leyendijk back into the fight, relinquishing, of course, the lead.
And of course, what we need to see is where is Mario. He couldn't make the pass on the racetrack. Perhaps stopping 1 lap later will allow him to make the pass in the pit lane. I believe it will.
I think I said the lead, relinquishing 2nd place in doing so. Fittipaldi continues to lead this race. He is full on fuel now. The methanol fuel has fresh tires and will continue on. But you see the sun comes out over the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course. So now the Indy cars have yet another factor to contend with. Brazilian Emerson Fittipaldi continues his lead in the Pioneer Electronics 200. Scott Goodyear from Canada runs in 2nd place, and then Robby Gordon in 3rd, Raul Boisel in 4th, and Ari Leyendijk now in 5th place, just ahead of Bobby Rahal.
So it was actually Mario Andretti who got the bad run during that pit stop, because as you can see, Rahal and Leyendijk got by, but now Mario has Alonso Jr. all over his rear wing.
And Mansell is up to 15th. There's Alonso Jr. alongside Mashushta.
There's Mario. So the fight now is between Mario and Al Jr.
Mansell up to 15th place. Still 3 position before he can earn a PPG point. So different than his previous performances. On a day that would have started potentially with Mansell leaving here with a championship. It will go on at least to Nazareth, perhaps even the final race of the season at Laguna Seca.
Al Jr.'s car, you can clearly see it under braking and turn-in, seems to enter and get to the apex faster than some of the other Lolas. That was one of the items that Alan Mertens addressed when he changed the rear geometry on this car to try and keep a better balance all through the apex. It's obviously been successful because since they put this new suspension on the car, Al Jr. has been much happier and much faster.
The battle for 7th between Al Unser Jr. and Mario Andretti. Derek, Jan mentioned it early in the going that many of the cars, they've unhooked some of the anti-roll bars. I call them sway bars. Why do they do that here?
Well, here at all, so the grip that this car seems to enjoy down through the apex of these corners as he peels off into the pit lane.
So Al Unser Jr. heads pit side. He's out of the pit sequence. Jan Beekes is there waiting for him. Jan?
Paul, he just got that advantage, but he's going to have to relinquish it now that he's in the pits. This shouldn't take too long because being out of that pit sequence, he can take on less fuel than the other runners. They've got the 4 tires on. They're waiting for the time stop on fuel very quick. They're just waiting for the go-ahead from Rick Gauss. He's in there now resetting his computer. He's underway.
So Al Unser Jr. back into the fight in 15.4 seconds. In the meantime, on the circuit, Raul Boisel and Robby Gordon battle for 3rd place.
When Jan mentions resetting the computer, every time you take on a new load of fuel, you press a button and zero everything so the fuel countdown starts from 0 again.
That's just the information that the driver needs to know how far he will carry and what his fuel consumption is in the race, but you have to have the baseline first. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Paul, remember, Robby Gordon was among those who elected to come in the earliest on that second and what they hoped would be final pit stop. Lap 58, meaning he had to go 31 laps. Most everybody figures 30 is about the maximum at this place. Now, we just checked with AJ Foyt. He gave us that sly wink, and he says, well, I think we're going to be all right, but they're going to be very, very close. In fact, we have an unconfirmed report that they've leaned down to 90% in terms of how rich or how lean they're running the fuel. And you really, I believe, and Derek could confirm this, you can't go much below 90% without really running those temperatures up.
You can't go much below 90%, you're right. But Gary, I think Scott Goodyear may be playing the same game because he is now suddenly 12 seconds behind Emerson Fittipaldi. I don't think he has enough fuel to run that car flat out.
Guzman has fallen out of the race now with a broken header. That moves Nigel Mansell up to 14th. The telemetry, of course, you see, is coming and being transmitted directly out of Raul Boisel's car. The other car is Robby Gordon, and on a couple of these corners, it's very wide indeed. That's a pretty fine line between blocking and just driving an unusual line.
Well, we did get a good example there of Gordon taking the middle line, which makes it difficult for the man trying to make the pass, and suddenly he ducks back. It was on the borderline of blocking, but remember, if you aggressively move left and right to try and deliberately stop somebody passing, Wally Dallenbach will black flag you and bring you in for a short interview.
Wally tends to say that it's not so much the first move that you take. The race course does, after all, belong to the car in front. It's when you make that second move that they're going to take the hard look at you. So Fittipaldi is still our leader by 13 seconds over second place, Scott Goodyear. The point standings at this moment, if Fittipaldi continues with his win, it doesn't look like that will change much. And the battle in the championship will go on for another race. Next Sunday here on ESPN, it's race number 15 of the PPG IndyCar World Series from Nazareth, Pennsylvania. That'll be coverage of the Nazareth race. And, of course, the championship goes on there. But the battle at Mid-Ohio remains here between Robby Gordon and Raul Boisel. It is a fight for 3rd place, currently occupied by Gordon.
And it is a fight for 3rd place. It may become a fight for 2nd place because they are reeling in Scott Goodyear.
Fight continues, revolving around 3rd place. Fittipaldi still the leader, followed by Goodyear. The key now would seem to me to be the fact that Fittipaldi seems to be pulling away from Scott Goodyear, Derek, at what, about a second a lap?
He has control of the race now. We're only speculating that Goodyear, having had to run 31 laps on that last tank of fuel, may have to short shift. But look at Mansell. He may be about to get back one of his laps. Look at this here, over the curb. Why would he try something like that?
Mansell, as he closed on Fittipaldi, jumped the curb. That's Olivier Griard just behind him, not in contention in this fight. It's not truly a fight in any way for position here. It is simply Mansell trying to unlap himself from Emerson Fittipaldi. Griard runs in 17th place right now, 2 laps behind the lead. Mansell runs in 15th and is trying to get back to a mere lap behind the lead of the race.
And that was a very aggressive move by Mansell. Luckily, there was enough room on the inside. When he knew he wasn't going to be able to make the pass, he drove over the curb, but actually lost about 3 or 4 or maybe even 5 car lengths to Emerson. He's obviously running fast, though.
Let's take a look back at that move in the keyhole with Nigel to the inside.
He's 2 car lengths behind him when he makes his lunge. Now he realizes he can't make it. Up over the top of the curb. Almost hit the back wing of Emerson and goes wide. Aggressive move by Nigel Mansell. Didn't quite pull it off.
Has to take the straight line there for a moment, get to the asphalt, and then turn the car. How'd you like to have been Griard at that moment to watch all of that? Best seat in the house, but not one I would have liked. So there's Fittipaldi sitting just ahead of Mansell. Again, not a battle for position. The championship fight goes on.
Emerson, because he's in the championship fight, if he sees Mansell coming down the inside, he may elect to actually give him a bit of room, because he will have realized what happened back in the keyhole. He doesn't need to have any part of an incident with Mansell right now.
So the fight on the circuit, though not a fight in contact, is Fittipaldi and Mansell. Gary Gerald, you have something on these two.
Paul, I think Derek hit it right on the nose. We understand here in the Penske camp that they've told Emerson, Mansell gets up there, just let him go on by. They don't want any part of any kind of a duel between the former world champions from F1. So look for that as they continue to work their way around this circuit.
I wonder why you'd even have to begin to tell Fittipaldi something like that. Just a reminder, eh?
Just a friendly reminder. I mean, Mansell is a little bit far behind now. He closes up through this corner here. This is where he made the lunge. Is he close enough this time? No, he's not.
While we watch these 2 world champions, the reigning world champion and a 2-time world champion, Emerson Fittipaldi, both the Andretti family and the Fittipaldis had some pretty good results in F1 today.
They did. There you go. Here you go. Watch what happens here. Side by side, Emerson doesn't need to contest it. Move to the left. Let him go. It's not a race. Remember, you're racing for the championship, Emerson. That's him going. You're absolutely right. Michael Andretti, we watched him earlier this morning, had a tremendous 3rd place finish up on the podium for the very first time at Monza.
And Fittipaldi, 9th. Is that the order?
Yes, but we had a scary moment at the end of that race with Fittipaldi's teammate when he flew off the road.
Buddy Lazier back on his grass-cutting expeditions as he keeps the engine going, getting it around as that battle between Bosell and Gordon comes past. Now you look back from Mansell and see the leader of the race, Emerson Fittipaldi, but Bosell is managing to continue his fight with Robby Gordon while Scott Goodyear sits alone in 2nd. At the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, most of the positions running static here. We're watching Al Unser Jr. close on Jimmy Vasser. Jimmy's had a particularly good day for their team, running in 9th place right now. Just so I don't leave this unclear, Christian Fittipaldi was running a fairly good race, but on the last lap he got into trouble.
Exactly. That's when he had the incident, did a complete backflip going over the start-finish line in a scary, scary moment that was even worse than we saw with the Tracy and the Williams last year.
So here at the Mid-Ohio Sports Car Course, it is Emerson Fittipaldi, static at about 15 seconds ahead of Scott Goodyear. Robby Gordon is 3rd. Raul Boesel is 4th. Ari Leyendijk is 5th, followed by Bobby Rahal and Mario Andretti. Scott Brayton is in 8th place, and you're watching the 9th place car of Jimmy Vasser as he tries to hold off 10th place Al Unser Jr.
And you clearly see Al Jr.'s different line through the keyhole as he blasts by Jimmy Vasser. He goes wide over the concrete patch, gets grip on the outside, and he definitely seems to slingshot off that right-hand hairpin much quicker than most of his other competitors.
Further update, Jan Vikas.
Well, you're talking about the Formula One race, and walking through the paddock today, we went by the Lola truck. All of a sudden, a huge roar came out of the Lola parts truck. We went inside. Everybody was watching Michael Andretti as he moved into third position. Everyone here really excited about Formula One, especially Michael Andretti's progress. Lots of drivers in there, Stefan Johansson and so on. And with our international coverage, there's a good chance those drivers are now watching here to see what, let's say, Nigel Mansell and those who have driven in Formula One are doing today. Also, Derek can tell you we had another flip here today with a driver not injured. It was in the Indy Lights race. It was Robby Gordon who took a big flip. He was also okay.
So, all the guys in F1 high.
Yes, exactly. Lots of speculation as to what Michael will do next year. I really don't believe I'm out on a limb if I say if he leaves Formula One, it will be Formula One's loss.
And the possibility of where he comes here, the name most often repeated seems to be Ganassi.
Well, I'd say there will be a line at his door at Nazareth if he becomes available.
On the other side of that, I think you're right. It would be nice to see Michael, now that he knows all the circuits, fighting that uphill battle with limited test time, unfamiliar cars, if he could get a good ride next year and show his true worth.
And we don't mean to talk over Jimmy Vasser because he is having an exceptionally good weekend. In the morning warm-up this morning, he was the third fastest car on the racetrack. So Vasser in that Codilux car having a very good weekend.
Nigel Mansell now about 15 seconds away from moving into 12th place, and in doing so taking the position from Hiro Matsushita and taking a PPG point. 12th place, the lowest position that awards a point. Gary Gerald, we come toward the end of the race, 75 laps complete. What's the fuel status?
Well, we mentioned there was concern for Robby Gordon and those who pitted on lap 58. Emerson Fittipaldi made it to lap 59. The fuel situation looking good, and here's one of the tip-offs. Dave Kiefer, the fueler for Emo, just moments ago took his helmet off. When he takes his helmet off, there's no concern about fuel for Fittipaldi.
No concern, or is the fuel tank totally empty, Gary?
I can't see the hose at the moment, Paul, to know if there's some in there or not.
Robby Gordon closes up behind Scott Goodyear. This just developing into a battle. You can see Boesel is there as well. 18 seconds ahead of this fight is Fittipaldi, running all alone, but still encountering some traffic. But now it's Robby Gordon taking a real strong look at second place.
And taking Alonso Jr.'s line through that last section of the keyhole. I'm not sure Goodyear can fight back in this attack here because he's been losing almost a second a lap to Robby Gordon.
Can't find it at all. Lets Gordon go past. Of course, fuel's still going to be a question there on Gordon's car. AJ Foyt with that sly wink. It tells you absolutely nothing. So now Gordon into second place. Goodyear back to third. Boesel will be the next to line up and take on Scott Goodyear. 76 laps complete.
And Boesel has been able to keep pace with Robby Gordon all the way through this last 10 to 15 laps. So he will mount probably an unchallenged attack on Scott Goodyear very shortly.
Well, Scott Goodyear certainly didn't fight back very hard when Robby came up. Gary Gerald, are we talking some sort of strategy there?
Well, I think the problem is one of the handling of the car for Goodyear. Got a quick word a few minutes ago with Derek Walker and just said the balance on that set of tires they made on that second stop not as good as what they'd experienced earlier. Consequently, it's costing them. And to answer the fuel question for Fittipaldi, they have about 10 gallons left here in pit if they needed it.
If they need it. Doesn't look like they're going to need it at all. He's stabilized about 19 seconds now in front of second place Gordon, while third place Scott Goodyear, having his handling problems, has Boesel just behind him. This, of course, is a fight that gets one or the other on the podium. And all those after the race photographs, which at this point in the season can mean so much when you're bringing your portfolio around and saying, look, here's my latest podium finish just last weekend.
I'm trying to take a close look at Goodyear's car here to see if we can pick up where he's slower. It's very difficult to pick it up. Sometimes when the set of tires is bad, you just have to slow down. You don't see the car sideways or understeering off the racetrack. You just have to slow down. So Boesel looks as if he should be able to make a pass on Goodyear very shortly.
And of course, as we do like to keep reminding you, this is the only point in contact, this battle here between Goodyear and Bosell on the race course. We have the advantage of the extremely efficient EDS computer scoring, which gives us intervals all the way down through the field. And this is the fight on the course you're looking at, and it looks like for the moment it may go to Bosell. He moves inside on the keyhole, but no, Goodyear's not going to let him through. Gesture off the hand or just shifting the gear from Goodyear?
I don't know, but the last pass with Gordon was uncontested, and suddenly Goodyear begins to contest this pass with Bosell. So maybe things in that car are beginning to settle down a little bit.
They're through the best passing area on the course, now coming to one of the more difficult as Bosell comes to the outside. He has to be careful there. Remember Al Unser Jr. earlier in the day.
Well, Goodyear is driving defensively now. We saw him on the downhill run. He stayed wide before he turned left to turn right. So he's defensively protecting that position. He believes he can hang on to it.
Gusting winds begin to pick up here on the front stretch. Sunshine is out, but wind gusts could become a factor here, blowing these cars around from point to point as the battle continues for third place. On the pit straight, the keyhole was where they tried it last time. Will Bosell try it there again? He closes in through the first turn.
Bosell probably has the longest contract of all drivers at the moment with that 3-year deal that he signed with Dick Simon right after the Duracell contract was signed.
Doesn't try it here, lines up. Now they come up to top speed, up to the top gears, and then very hard on the brakes down through the gears. Bosell's going to make his move to the inside, but it is not enough. Bosell continues to run in fourth place. Goodyear stays in third as the fight continues at Mid-Ohio. On the Mid-Ohio Sports Car course, the fight continues for third place in a position on the podium between Scott Goodyear and Raul Boesel. Just a moment ago, Nigel Mansell was able to drive easily around Hiro Matsushita and pick up 12th place, and the single point that it offers up in the championship fight. A point that may seem insignificant, but as tight as this battle has become, could make all the difference in the world.
You think these tires are still a problem? Fuel. I'm not so sure. Maybe he backed off long enough to save enough fuel, and now he's actually able to put the hammer down again and stave off Raul Bosell.
Matter of fact, this battle is coming just a little bit forward toward Robby Gordon, who is 17 seconds behind Fittipaldi. Fittipaldi has been kind of just waiting station there out in front and taking it very careful. The meantime, in second place is Robby Gordon. In his pit with AJ Foyt is Jan Beekes.
He's been speaking with Robby on the radio. Have you been speaking with him about fuel or about driving?
Well, mainly been talking to him about driving. Just trying to stay out of trouble, because we had first lap, we had a little wing damage, and we adjusted the wings, and just told him to use his head because Fittipaldi's got us covered pretty good, so we just try to bring her home second.
Now, we've had reports that you've leaned down the engine. Have you had to do that to make it to the end?
No. We haven't had to do nothing to the fuel at all.
Great. Thank you, AJ.
Okay, judge for yourself.
Well, whatever it is a battle that Robby Gordon is by himself at the moment trying to catch Emerson, but he's in control. But this is where the action is right here.
Look at Bosell. He comes to the inside, darts the outside. Goodyear locks the brakes. They have slower traffic, and Lazier ahead of him. Lazier clears the course. Bosell comes out a little bit short on the exchange. But now, again, they run down to the key passing area at Mid-Ohio.
There is nothing wrong with Scott Goodyear here. This is just a straight fight, a straight battle for this fourth place, this third place.
82 laps complete by the leader, Fittipaldi. Robby Gordon chews 1 second off the lap lead of Fittipaldi at the moment. Now 16 seconds ahead of Gordon. This is the fight for third. No one else in contact.
Believe it or not, Brian Till is flying. He's that car right behind them. He has actually reeled these boys in.
And he stayed up there all day. I mean, he's been running with these leaders the entire time. Wonderful run for Till. Look at him close in here.
He is faster than these two boys ahead of him, but it's not a battle for position. What a shame it's not, because Brian Till has been extremely fast here all weekend in Norm Turley's operation that really is on a bit of a wing and a prayer every weekend as to whether it even gets to the races.
Till had his problem early on, fell 6 laps behind the race, now runs in 18th place. but he continues to match the pace of the leaders. Talk about how quick Brian Till is. Have some information for you on that here in a second as they head down in. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Well, we wonder about this fuel situation. A couple of radio reports. Jimmy Vassar may have to be in the next lap for a splash and go. We also hear that Nigel Mansell may have to get a splash and go. So he's battled forward to a points-paying position at number 12, but he may lose it if he has to get that splash. That's making Emerson Fittipaldi and the Penske team very happy.
The front is still Fittipaldi. In the meantime, Nigel Mansell, we go on board. Clear road ahead. But ahead of him is Willie T. Ribbs, and that is who he would like to catch up to, but Willie is well ahead of Mansell. It is not likely that he will move any further than 12th place. So here at Mid-Ohio, Emerson Fittipaldi continues his lead and will pick up a bag full of points if he can stay there toward the end. In the closing laps now at Mid-Ohio with 4 laps to go for the leader, Emerson Fittipaldi. Nigel Mansell, who could have clinched a championship here, is caught in the middle of a battle between Scott Brayton and Al Unser Jr. It is a battle for 8th place, currently occupied by Brayton. But Al Unser Jr. was closed up right behind Nigel Mansell just a few moments ago. Watch as this fight closes in, because Brayton and Unser Jr. don't care anything about Mansell's problems.
And Al Jr. has been in this catch-up mode all afternoon, but he's constantly in a fight. That is a position that he needs with Brayton. But Ray Hall, he's at the top of the picture there, is only just a little bit ahead of him. Look at Mansell around the outside of Brayton.
Almost drops a wheel off. I'm not so sure that he didn't as he comes around the outside of Brayton. Has clear track ahead. Of course, Mansell's objective is Willie T. Ribbs ahead on the course, because he'd like to pick up at least one more position, pick up a few points. It doesn't seem likely at the moment, but then Mansell's known for doing unlikely things. And what that does is allow Scott Brayton and Al Unser Jr. to renew their battle as Little Al closes right in on the back end of Scott Brayton. So that fight should pick up here shortly. At the same time, we'll continue to track the progress of Bosell and Scott Goodyear in their revolving battle for 3rd place. They're not head-to-head at the moment. Let's look back through the field for them. And here they come. You can see they are not fighting with one another at the moment. Perhaps they're waiting for a setup on the last lap of this run.
But not too far behind these is Arie Luyendyk. He has been getting closer and closer all the time, but Mansell does have to take on a splash of fuel.
Remember, he's out of the sequence on the stops. Nothing strange here except that he's going to need the fuel, and he's back in. So there's any chance of moving up to 11.
Well, he has certainly driven hard all weekend here. To give you an idea how fast, 115.3 was his fastest lap. The only man faster was Emerson Fittipaldi, 115.6.
And there is Fittipaldi, 17 seconds ahead of 2nd place Robby Gordon, who's had a wonderful day in his own right, as Robby Gordon runs in 2nd, chased by Scott Goodyear. Boiselle sits in 4th place, and Arie Luyendyk sits in 5th. Piece of paper caught to the back of Fittipaldi's car. That doesn't matter.
Well, it doesn't matter. Luckily, he didn't get into the front radiator and overheat that car. But Emerson, enjoying a healthy lead, said to me this morning he's had niggling problems that has kept him out of the winner's rostrum for the last 3 or 4 or 5 races. Lost critical momentum at a terrible time in the championship. Maybe that momentum is about to transfer back to Emerson Fittipaldi.
87 laps are now complete for Emerson Fittipaldi as he comes onto the pit straight unchallenged. There comes the white flag as he starts the 89th and final lap. As Teresa Fittipaldi cheers him on, he's not in contest at all, so feel a little safe in showing you that at this point. Robby Gordon comes across the line 17 seconds behind Fittipaldi in 2nd place on this, the final lap.
Constant development on these cars. Gordon, Nigel Bennett told me they do 110 days of wind tunnel work per year with this car, with their cars. Next year's car is already being built by the boys in Poole, such as Penske's organization.
So Emerson Fittipaldi works his way on the final lap. It'll be 2 years in a row for Emerson Fittipaldi, now the new master of the Mid-Ohio sports car course. But perhaps even more important is he will pick up the 20 laps for the win of the race and a point for leading the most laps. And for Penske, you remember last year where his Winston Cup team won, and so did his IndyCar team with Fittipaldi here last year. Looks like another one of those weekends. Rusty Wallace won last night. Here's Fittipaldi going for his 20th career win. Fittipaldi a full 16 seconds ahead of Robby Gordon last time across the line, and here he comes. Chevrolet, Fittipaldi, a Penske chassis, and Fittipaldi takes the win.
Today he aims to raise the trophy.